Hey guys, it's Miss Bet Bees here for third grade reading, and I am so excited today because I came in here and there was this whole setup for us, and it has tons of surprises. So I'm excited to kind of get us going and see what is all of this? What does all of this mean? Okay, so the first thing that I saw here that got me really excited was this envelope. It says to third graders. So I want to open up and see what's inside. Okay, let's see. Oh, guys, it looks like it's an invitation. We've been invited to a party. It says you are cordially invited to a book party. Where? Here on TV. When? Right now. And it says we're going to read a book and we're going to unwrap some new learning. Oh, I'm so excited. It says you cannot open the present, though, until the end. Oh, my goodness. Do y'all see this present? I wonder what's inside. Oh, my goodness. Can't wait to find out. It's not really that heavy, and it doesn't really make much noise when I shake it. Wonder what it is. Start thinking about that. What could it be? Okay, guys, so a book party must mean that we are going to read a book. And there's also a book here. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to go ahead too and get my party hat on. Okay? Because if we're going to a party, then I need to have a party hat. Okay, so I have a story here today, and it is called The Hidden Feast. Okay? And it looks really, really good. I love all the beautiful colors that they're using. They're very vibrant and they stick out to me, and I really like those, okay? So remember today, we are finishing out our study with this standard, which is to recount folk tales from diverse cultures, and we're gonna use our key details to convey and communicate what that central message or that lesson is that we can learn from our story, okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and open up. I love to look in the front and the back covers of my book, okay? And these are the same here. So, I wonder what this has to do with food. Well, if I think back to my cover, The Hidden Feast. A feast is a big meal, isn't it? Okay? Yes, it is. Well, this must have something to do with that. We'll have to read and find out more. Okay, so this is a folk tale that's from the American South, and it was retold by Martha Hamilton and Mitch Weiss and illustrated by Don Tate. All right, so I liked in here, I don't know if you've ever noticed this before, I try to point it out to my students when I read, but a lot of books will have a dedication, and so oftentimes the author or the illustrator will come inside the book and they will dedicate the book to someone that's important to them or maybe gave them inspiration or motivation to write that particular story. So we see that here. And then this book also had something interesting, which was an author's note. And that was the part that I really wanted to point out to you today. But I would like for you to look in your books as you read from now on, since you know it's there. Look and see, did your author provide a note? Did they provide a dedication in their book to someone? Because they're enjoyable and just fun to read sometimes. It helps you to kind of see a little bit into their life. But this says, although this story's roots are African American, it says it conjures up the best and the worst about family get-togethers. So think about your family get-togethers. So there's some really fun parts, and sometimes there can be some not so fun parts of a family gathering. So we're going to hit on those things as we read our story today. So I wanted to share that with you. All right, guys. So I'm going to begin reading our story, and as I'm reading, I want you to think about, as we have our book party, all of these things that we've been talking about now for the last 2 weeks, okay? All of those story elements, you know, what's our setting? Who are our characters? What are those main events, those key details that build those events of our story? And what is that central message, that lesson that we can learn from our folktale, okay? One day, the barnyard animals got an invitation. We just got one too. Their friends on the farm nearby were having a party. The animals dressed in their Sunday best and set off to see their neighbors. Rooster led the way, strutting and crowing. Duck waddled behind. Cow moseyed along in her own sweet time. Pig strolled under his umbrella to keep from getting a sunburn. Goat pranced about, thinking of the feast they were going to eat. Horse trotted along, feeling fine. Sheep made sure to keep in line. Donkey walked right in the middle of the road, and Chicken crossed it to get to the other side. Y'all hear those jokes in there that we hear a lot of times? The animals at the next farm knew how to throw a party. They had planned a whole afternoon of fun. First, they played pin the tail on the donkey. Things did not get off to a good start because Donkey did not want to play. Can you imagine why Donkey wouldn't want to play pin the tail on the donkey? But when Pig nearly pinned the tail on Duck, even Donkey had a good belly laugh at that. Horse took off her shoes so that everyone could play. You guessed it, horseshoes. I love how this story has little jokes in there that are just kind of funny. When they played hide and seek, Chicken was the hardest to find. Chickens can be hard to find sometimes. After the games, the animals sang and danced. Pig broke out in a show of ham bone. The animals hooted and hollered while Pig slapped herself silly. Next, they sang a round of Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Rooster made sure they all remembered their parts. And what would a party be without the hokey pokey? The animals had a ball shaking it all about. When the dinner bell rang, the animals scampered into the barn and sat down. Why, this is the prettiest sight I've ever seen, said Sheep. I can't wait to see what we have for supper, crowed Rooster. The hosts brought in fancy bowls and placed them in front of the guests. But the only thing in each bowl was a piece of cornbread. The animals were disappointed, but most of them were polite. My, it was nice of you to go to all this trouble, Horse said to the hosts. Bless your hearts for making such a fine feast, Cow added. Pig could not wait to chow down. This cornbread makes me want to slap my pappy, he blurted out. Let's eat. They all laughed. After Chicken said grace, the animals picked up their forks, all except Rooster. He turned up his beak in disgust. Cornbread? Is that all? Why, I eat cornbread every day. With that, he turned and strutted home without a thank you or a goodbye. How rude. Donkey was embarrassed by Rooster's behavior. Don't mind Mr. Rooster, he told his host. He thinks he's the cat's meow. That means he thinks he's better than everybody else. The other animals dug into the cornbread. Cow was the first to find the surprise. Lol, she cried. I just found some mashed potatoes in here. Look, squealed Pig, black-eyed peas, my favorite. But the feast wasn't finished. Hidden under the vegetables, the animals found dessert. Oh my goodness, hooted Horse, this chocolate pudding is divine. Oh my, sweet potato pie, good enough to die for, squawked Duck. Peach cobbler, bellowed Cow. I think I have died and gone to heaven. Later, when the animals returned home, they chattered on and on about the supper. That was the best meal I ever had, Pig groaned with glee. He patted his stomach. You're right about that, agreed Goat. And who knew that all those tasty treats would be hidden under that cornbread? Look who's over here. Do you think he hears them? What do you think he's thinking right now? When Rooster overheard all the talk, he was fit to be tied. If you're fit to be tied, it means you're angry. He could not believe he had walked away from such a tasty meal. But Rooster did not admit that he was wrong. He never even apologized to his host for his rude behavior. He just pouted in silence. But since that time, Rooster has never been fooled for what he sees on top. Watch him in the barnyard. When he finds a bit of food, he scratches and scratches to get to the very bottom of it. He wants to be certain that he will never miss another hidden feast. Now, do roosters really do that? They do. If you ever observe them and watch, you'll see them constantly digging beneath things. Okay, so this story wanted us to think that that's where that actually began and that's why roosters do that. Now, is that really the case? No, but we see that in some folk tales. They try to show us that that's where things come from. On Monday, we read a story, and they were trying to tell us where bats came from and flying squirrels. And so that is one of those aspects of a folk tale that we see oftentimes. So I wanted to point that out to you. Okay, guys, so now that we've finished reading our book, The Hidden Feast, I hope y'all enjoyed it. I really, really like that book. I have a chart right here, okay? And I have a question for you at the top. It says, what's the scoop? Okay, now the reason why I chose ice cream, if you look at this, we've got a really tall stack of ice cream here. And the reason why I chose ice cream was because it's a party, okay? Who can have a party without ice cream? Not us. We've got to have our ice cream. So I tied that in with, what's the scoop? Well, has anybody ever heard anybody ask that before? Hey, what's the scoop? This kind of scoop means information, okay? So I want you guys to help me find the important information from our story that's going to help us to be able to determine what the lesson is that we can learn from this story. Okay, are you ready to help me out? All right, so I'm going to tell you what each of these letters stand for that spell scoop, okay? So the S in scoop is wanting us to find the setting, okay? The C stands for the characters. The first O means, oh no, it's the problem. It's the oh no, what's wrong, okay? And then the second O is the order of events, which are also our key details that create those events in our story, okay? And then our P is the problem solved, that solution. What did we do to solve that problem? And it spells the word scoop. So if you can remember that acronym, SCOOP, then you can remember everything it means, then it will be easy for you to do this on your own at home with any book. So remember what the scoop is, okay? And also, this is going to give us tons of information about our text. So that being said, I've got a couple questions for you now. All right, so I want you to think about our story, The Hidden Feast. What was the setting of that story? Where were they in that story? Where were they? Well, I think most of us could remember, or we could go back in our text if we can't remember, but it said they were on a farm, right? So the farm would be the setting of this story, the farm, okay? So next we need to figure out, well, who were our characters, okay? Who were those main characters in our story? Well, we had several, didn't we? We had a chicken, we had a rooster, we had a cow, we had a horse, we have a pig, we have a donkey, we had a duck and a sheep. I think I had all the other ones. So those barnyard animals, they were often referred to as barnyard animals, but then we did get a little more specific information about exactly which barnyard animals there were. But it's most the animals you would find on a farm. Okay, so now let's think about this. The oh no, what was the problem here? What was the big thing that was wrong in our story? Well, let's think about that for a minute. Remember, stories can have more than one problem, right? Well, let's think about our biggest problem here. Who had the biggest problem in our story? I would say it was Rooster. He was so rude, and what caused him to be so rude, even though it does not excuse his behavior, was that he was very disappointed that he was only served cornbread, which he feels like he eats daily at a fancy party. And so he rudely leaves the party, and then he has nothing to eat. Okay, so that's the problem there, okay? He's rude to the host of the party, and he leaves, and then he has no food. All right, well then, let's think about the order of the events. What were those details? Let's really think about what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end of our story, and let's try to see what are those events, and how are they going to help me to determine the lesson that I can learn from the story. All right, well, let's look. Okay, so in the beginning, the barnyard animals are invited to a party, right? Okay, and they go to this neighboring farm who they obviously know have really good parties because they mention that as they're walking over to the party. Okay, when they get there, they experience all the things that you experience at a party. Usually at a party, you're going to have, chatting with each other, dancing, singing, playing together. And so that's exactly what they do. The animals play games with each other, they start to dance, and then it's time to eat. That's another big thing that you do at a party, right? So they sit down for dinner, and they're served a simple bowl of cornbread. Well, everybody's a little disappointed by that. And Rooster, like we said before, he creates the problem. He gets up and leaves very rudely because he's so disappointed in the meal, leaving him with no food to eat and leaving his behavior being very rude to his hosts, okay? The animals begin to eat the meal, and inside they find a hidden feast. They find meat, they find vegetables, they found dessert, which I think might have been their favorite. Is that your favorite too? It's mine too. Okay, so those are the events, those are the things that happened, okay, in the story. Well, then that leads us to, well, what's the detail that actually solved this problem? How did they fix the problem that, Rooster was rude, that Rooster had no food? Well, did it get solved? Let's think about that for a minute. Well, when the animals return to the farm, Rooster overhears them chatting about their delicious meal, right? And he gets really upset. It said he was fit to be tied. That means that he's angry. So he was fit to be tied, and now to this day, he scratches the ground. All roosters scratch the ground so that they never miss another hidden treasure of any kind, okay? So did it solve the problem that he didn't have a meal? No. Did Rooster go back and never apologize to the host for being so rude? No, he didn't. He didn't. And so do you think he learned a lesson from that, though? Did he miss out on something? He did, okay? He learned that from now on, he needs to look deeper and not, necessarily just get up and leave and be totally rude when he doesn't like something, right? Okay, well now let's get to that big part of our standard, determining the lesson. What is the lesson that we can learn from our story? Well, we got the scoop, right? But there's one thing that's missing, the lesson. Well, I remember that this invitation told me that I could open this present at the end of my party. Let's open it up and see what's in here. Maybe it'll help us. Let's see. All right, I wonder what's inside. It's pretty good size. What could it be? Right now, got some tissue paper. Oh my goodness, y'all. It's the lesson to our story. We unwrap the lesson to our story, and our lesson is that things aren't always what they seem. Wasn't that the case here? Okay, what it seemed to be in our story? It was the cornbread, right? Their meal. They thought they were just going to have cornbread, but instead when they got into the meal, they had meat, they had vegetables, they had dessert, they had this great feast that was so delicious. So things aren't always what they seem, okay? And there were, like I said, a lot of things that communicate that to us. And now, to this day, roosters still scratch really hard at the ground because they learned, especially Rooster from our story, that things are not always what they seem. So as you're reading your stories, remember, it doesn't have to just be a folk tale or a fable or a myth. It could be any story. Your author is usually sending you some sort of central message that they want to get across to you in their writing, especially in reading literature. So anytime you're reading, really, really look for that. Ask yourself those questions. Think about the scoop. Think about all those story elements and how those main details, those main events lead you to something that you could actually learn from your characters and their experiences in the story. Okay, guys, I will see you back here next week, and we will do some more fun learning. We're going to be changing into a different standard. We're going to be reading a little more informational text, so I can't wait to see you. Join me next week.